Hey, everybody, welcome to another record tying episode of Phil and the Mic. I, as always, am Darren Michael, and with me, the man who was exhausted because he got back from Toronto last night. I don't know if anybody saw him, but during the Aaron Judge record tying home run that was hit, he was the guy that was sitting between Roger Maris Jr. and Aaron Judge's mom, Mr. Phil Calise. Phil, what was it like being in the stadium when Aaron Judge hit that 61st home run? And I saw that his mom hugged you, and then and then you hugged Roger Maris Jr. What was that whole thing like?
Surreal, surreal experience, Darren. Surreal
Yeah,
experience. And you know what I felt bad about as I had that perfect view, as
yeah,
that low line drive started just so gently coming up a little bit in that stadium. I watched three goofball men all miss the catch. Normally, when you miss a foul ball or a home run ball, I mean, there's no value to it, not a big deal.
yeah.
That was $1 million drop by three men who all had a chance to catch it. So I immediately turned to Roger Maris, son, looked at him and said, "It's $1 million just right down the drain." And the mom was very excited because they didn't have to pay anything for it. So it was a happy moment for the judges. I don't know if the Marises are really happy or not, but you know,
The thing about the Maris is that when there's a big home run chase like this, then they're excited because their father's name gets back into the public eye. That's what it
mm,
is. People start feeling nostalgic. And next thing you know, he's going to get in the Hall of Fame for having two great years just
yeah.
because of that, because everybody's starting to think about him. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he did something incredible. So
Let me.
congratulations, Aaron Judge. How was he feeling after the game? I know you spent some time with him after the game.
Aaron Judge was very happy, relieved, I think, to get the monkey off his back because it had been 6 or 7 games, which is a
Yeah.
long drought for Aaron Judge,
Yeah. Yeah.
who hits one every day, it seems. So I think he was feeling, I don't think he was feeling pressure because he was still hitting pretty well, but you could see a relief in him. You
Yeah.
could see a relief in the family, the Yankee organization. They were just
Yeah.
happy to get this milestone past them and more happy that now they have a chance for 3 games in the Bronx to break Maris at home in front of that Bronx madness that they're going to see starting tonight as we sit here Friday morning coming to you guys Friday evening. He will have a chance to break the record back at Yankee Stadium, which is cool. And as a Met fan, obviously with this lovely hat on, you a Braves fan apparently, ridiculous. Um, it turns my attention, who don't care about the Yankees at all, to while it is a football Friday and we have all the fun stuff with college and pro football, this one has a little bit of a different feel for the Khalees household. My boys woke up pumped, excited for the big weekend in Atlanta. I mean, anytime you get a pennant race down to the last few games and you get a head-to-head series to kind of decide it, that's pretty amazing. You get the extra drama with Hurricane Ian bearing down, but then taking a nice right-hand turn to looks like open up the weather for the Atlanta suburbs. So it looks like we'll play all three against the Bravos.
That's right.
So that's it's a fun it's a baseball Friday if you're in a pennant race this late in the year. So
Yeah.
this is my any sports fan. This is the most fun time of year. Baseball pennant races, the NFL is kicked into high gear, college football is in week 4 or 5. The next month, where you get all three of those sports, playoffs for the baseball. I mean, this is a fun about a month and a half run now coming up.
Well,
So
not only that. I mean, you also have the opening of training camps for NBA and NHL, which I know you're always really excited about.
that's
So
exhilarating. We should probably spend some time on NBA training camp. We definitely should do that. And NHL training camp. Absolutely.
now
Absolutely.
you're now are you planning on going to the Rangers training camp this year again?
Yeah, it's in Rye, New York. For people that don't know, they're located in a lovely little upstate town of Rye, New York. That's because there's 9 people in Rye, and then when the Rangers get there, it triples the population. And yeah, it just should be a good time. I'd like to hear about who's skating well, who's really putting their head down and trying to make the team. It should be a fun report I provide. Give me a
Good.
couple weeks on that report.
It's like, all right, first I need to learn what hockey is. Then I need to figure out who the players are. Then I have to understand the rules. I understand. I
You
understand.
know,
It's fine.
you know.
It's fine. So, the interesting thing is now we're coming to everybody on Friday morning. So there was
Mm.
actually a game yesterday. I don't know if you watched, did you watch the football game last night? I actually,
Not. I only got the message that Tua got badly injured.
You
And
know,
and as somebody who picked the Dolphins plus 3.5, I go, that doesn't feel good anymore.
they were playing really well into it, but let me just explain to you what happened, right? So on the play, he fakes the handoff. Everybody is going to the right side, and he scrambles out to the left. He's all by himself. There's nobody within 20 yards of him. All right, all by himself. So nobody's open. So what does he do? He keeps waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And the normal person, I would assume, would just throw the ball away, right? So
Mm.
instead, what he did, since he had like 10 seconds in the pocket, he decided to hold on to the ball and get sacked. And when he got sacked, he got thrown to the ground once again on his head. And and I'm just thinking the whole time he actually went off in a stretcher, and they actually released him last night. I spoke to his mom, and she was really concerned about everything, but he's fine. He's released, but the whole thing doesn't make any sense because last week, remember last week he got thrown down, he hit his head on the ground.
They thought it was a concussion, but then they said it was his back, right? Yeah.
Well, they allegedly it wasn't a concussion. Let me tell you something. His head hit the ground really, really hard. Remember when he got up, he stumbled. He couldn't even walk straight. And somehow they're saying he didn't have a concussion, which I think they're going to do an investigation because something is a little out of sorts. But anyway, so they took him off the field. He really wasn't even moving, but they released him. They said he's okay. But it's like the worst fears, and it's what you keep talking about with Tua. You know what? I mean, for all the stuff that you talk about, maybe him not being as accurate or his arm not being so strong or whatever, the guy gets hurt all the time, and that's the biggest problem with him. And we're watching the game. I'm watching the game last night with one of my girls, and I said, and even they said to me, I think it was Brooke, and she's like, Dad, why didn't he just throw the ball away? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. That's like those quarterbacks where, the rookies, they come into the league, they take hits, and you have to teach them, no, you have to slide or you run out of
Yeah.
bounds.
Yeah. I listen, Tua is accurate. And this is not to beat up on Tua, obviously. He's accurate. I like some things about him. I just think he's on the small side. I just think if a quarterback is injury prone at Alabama, where they have a better offensive line than everyone they face, I mean, and they're literally bullying eight, 8/10 of their 8/10 of their schedule is getting bullied by the offensive line, and he still takes unnecessary hits. That's not going to translate well in the NFL, where the teams are much more at par with each other.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and listen, this could derail Miami's season because if he truly had any bit of a concussion the first time, and now he has another one, I mean, my understanding is he could be out at least 4 to 6 weeks
Could be. Yeah.
because they're going to have to be very careful because if you get 2, 3, 4 concussions in a year, your career can be over. So like they're going to have to shut it down after this, especially with all the spotlight around. Did he really have one last week? He's not going to play for a month. I'd be shocked. And you know what? I'd be disappointed in the NFL and Miami if he played in the next month. He needs a month off to make sure he's good. So, which will hurt the Dolphins season. Although Bridgewater's not horrible, and they were driving, I heard, late to try
Yeah.
to take a lead and he got picked off. They were driving to take the lead back. So
Yeah.
it's
What
not
what
like they got
happened?
blown out. But
Listen, and I'm assuming that over time, if Tua's out for a while, then Teddy's going to get more reps. What happened was he had the tight end. The tight end went one way. He threw it the other way. I guess he thought the tight end was going to go the other way, and it's just
and you get that with the backup quarterback. Like,
that's what happens, right? And
yeah.
so my assumption is that they'll get to be more in sync as they're playing more together. Yeah, they were driving, and they would have. It was a one score game.
15-10, right? It was, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. It was,
no, it
but
was
instead,
20 to 15. It was 20 to 15. Dolphins were driving to take the lead. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but instead, look what happens. They
Yeah.
hit the interception, they drive down, they score a touchdown, and that's the end of the game. But
And listen,
yeah,
anybody that thought the Bengals, who just went to the Super Bowl, were just going to like now roll over. I mean, that was always going to be a tough game. They're the Bengals. They're a good team now. They're not
listen, and I think you mentioned it before. I mean, Vegas knows things,
yeah,
and they had them favored. I think the spread was 4 at kickoff time.
yeah,
So they knew what was going on. I don't know if they could predict that Tua was going out, but listen, as much as I know you're not a Tua fan, he's been playing good ball,
yeah.
and this is for a guy that really needs to have a great season, this could really ruin his future if he can't stay on the field.
Well, and listen, if you were, and I like this new coach, right? He's this like, what did I call him? Like a little bit of a prodigy, right? He comes out of what, the San Francisco, right? Wasn't he in the San
Yeah, I
Francisco
think he was. I think
family?
he was the San Francisco guy. Yeah,
Clearly, we got the worst end of it with Salah, and they got the better end of it. I'm
yeah.
just joking. I like Salah. Um, but you can't set a quarterback up with better weapons than they've given Tua, right? Like they've optimized
Oh,
his potential.
oh yeah.
Tyreek
Oh
Hill
yeah.
is a game-changing, blazing speed guy, and then alongside him, you put another game-changing, blazing speed guy. I mean, they got speed to kill. So, I'm sure any quarterback, just about any quarterback, would trade places with Tua in terms of the offensive roster. I mean, the Dolphins got some real talent there. So he has to perform with these receivers. Separation should be easy with these two.
Yeah, it should be.
So,
It should be.
so it's fun. We'll see. We'll
It
see.
should be. All right. Well, let's move on to a little football. I just want to touch on some college football last week and get your thoughts on a couple things. For one, you know, Georgia, as much as they're just blowing out everybody, I mean, they beat Kent State 39-22. And let's be honest, that's a close game, especially when you're playing Kent State.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, okay, should a team drop that only beats a Kent State by 17 points? I don't know what the spread of that game was. I'm assuming it was 30,
Had to be north of 35. Yeah.
right?
Um, Listen, there's been some like we know. I mean, me as a Notre Dame fan, watch Marshall win. Appalachian State beat A&M. There was another few big upsets. Miami lost to Middle Tennessee State. Yep, you got
Yeah.
that right. Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah, I called that.
Um,
Yeah.
Kent State hung tough with Georgia. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's been others. It's been a weird college football season. And why it's been even more weird is the upper echelon, I'll call them based on preseason rankings, upper echelon, have
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
no one. I mean, like you can't ascertain anything from what Michigan's done through 4 weeks. Alabama, the only game they played remotely difficult. They should have lost to Texas.
Yeah.
Georgia's played no one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, go on and on and on. When you look at the top 6, 7 teams, they've either played no one or the one game they played, they got a big scare. So like it's a little bit of a wacky year. And you know what? I think what college football really could use is a wacky year. You
Yeah.
don't get it in college football. You never get a wacky year.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would love to see a wacky year. Give me some random team in the top four. Give me something different. It'd be cool. It'd be cool, especially on the heels of moving to 12 teams eventually. But I
Yeah.
think the short answer is Georgia graduated or lost to the NFL 2/3 of their team. If anybody thinks Georgia's just going to be this automatic juggernaut, the only reason they're probably going to go 12-0 is they have a very easy schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very easy.
Very easy. It's
Yeah.
not going to test them much at all this year.
No. No.
So
No.
they're probably going to be able to stay undefeated, but I think if they would have had a more difficult schedule this year, they were primed for a loss because they just, you turn over 2/3 of your roster. It's gonna be hard to stay that level.
It makes it
I know they have
tough.
SB, the old Stetson man, but that's,
The fourth.
Stetson Bennett the fourth, yeah.
Yes, hi, I'm Stetson Bennett the
And and
fourth.
and while we're on college football, I mean, another 2-1 week for yours truly, 9-3.
Dude,
Pretty
you're
good.
you're
Pretty
you're
good.
playing well, man. 3-1 in your locks. I look forward to hearing your
Little teaser for later. Yep.
your picks this week. But the another interesting, and you kind of touched on it, but you touched on Michigan.
Yeah.
They were heavily favored over Maryland, and they just squeaked out a win. And Maryland is not a great team, but it makes you wonder what kind of team Michigan is. You smoke three cupcakes, then you play an interconference game, and all of a sudden it's close. Are they for real? Are they not for real? See, now you don't know. They
Yeah.
look like the greatest team in the world. Then they play Maryland, and now you're like, let's not maybe jump on that bandwagon right now.
And that's my fault because that's my only loss last week was taking Michigan and a rule of thumb to me, and I didn't follow my own rule is when a team plays absolute cupcakes and then plays a big step up, and I see the problem was I downplayed Maryland as not a big step up, but just when you look at Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn, Maryland is by extension has to be a big step
Oh,
up.
a huge step
And
up. Yeah.
so they've seen it's not one cupcake. It's three cupcakes in a row. And when you've seen three cupcakes in a row, I'm sorry, but the difference of speed between those programs in Maryland is pretty obvious, and the talent is pretty obvious. And so Michigan, after a whole month of playing garbage, did take a big step up and didn't handle it that well.
Yeah.
And to me, if you're going to circle another game that's dangerous, is now finally in October, Michigan goes on the road for the first time. That won't be easy because I don't know if Iowa is a very big step up from Maryland. I think the step up is more minor because this is not a vintage Iowa team, but
Yeah.
now first road game. And so probably Michigan will struggle in this one and they might lose this game. And I think you can, if they do, you shouldn't play a bunch of teams like that to start your season.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pad your wins, but you don't need to pad your wins.
You don't
Like
need to
you don't
play
need to.
some good
Win
competition.
your conference, you're going to go to the playoff in the Big Ten. You don't
Sure.
need to play three garbage opponents at home. So
That's true.
I'm not a fan of these kind of schedules, but apparently everyone's adopting them.
Yeah.
Georgia's schedule was trash. You know, a lot of these teams. So
Yeah.
I don't know
Usually
why.
and usually it's the end of the season too. It's like the second to last game. You play cupcake
That's an
to set
SEC
yourself
thing.
up
That's an
for
SEC
the
thing.
rivalry game. Is
Yeah.
okay. All right. All
Yeah.
right. Well, speaking of SEC, I think that we've got the second coming of Tim Tebow.
Oh, and who are you talking about?
The quarterback of Florida, Anthony Richardson. Here's his line from last game. All right. 50% completion percentage, 453 yards, 2 touchdowns, rushed 17 times for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. The team might not be very good, but this is the next Tim Tebow. He can't complete a pass, but when he does, it goes for 30 yards. And then he runs a whole bunch of times, scores some touchdowns. So this is a guy that's probably going to put up some pretty crazy numbers for a team that the only difference is Tim Tebow just won.
Yeah.
But I
Winner.
just thought it was kind of funny. I'm like looking at his stat line and I'm like, this looks like a Tim Tebow stat line, except
intangibles. Timmy intangibles.
Man, I'm a Timmy T guy, but
he's a leader.
A couple other things that I just wanted to touch on was number 7 USC barely squeaked by Oregon State. They scored a touchdown with a minute left to win that game, and number 15 Oregon, they had to score 29 points in the fourth quarter to beat Washington State 44-41. There was actually 43 points scored in the fourth quarter.
So here's a hot take. 2 hot takes. Well, not hot takes. One's a 30-second rant and one's a hot take. Okay. USC very much could get to the playoff this year.
They could.
And the 30-second rant is, this is the problem with the transfer portal. It's not, I don't care that Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to go to USC, but I do care that he was then able to pull half the roster off Oklahoma or a quarter of the roster off Oklahoma, plus pull every other big free agent that he needed to make USC good right away. I don't like that.
Plus,
I just don't like it.
The star wide receiver from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, just so many. I just don't like it. It's like you don't want free agency is for professional sports. When college basketball and football becomes this full free agency, and I also don't want to hear like Colin Cowherd, who I know is like in love with everything in California. It's like I don't need to hear him tell me how great Lincoln Riley is because look how quick USC's already in contention. Okay. They turned over 3/4 of their roster. Yeah. He didn't take that team from last year and make it this good. He took a whole new team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different thing. Like if Nick Saban tomorrow decided he no longer likes Alabama and went to pick your school, and it doesn't even have to be that big of a name school. If Nick Saban goes, I'm going to go to Boston College next year, he could bring a quarter of Alabama's 5-star recruits and then one big prospect off another 10 schools locally, and he could have Boston College competing for the ACC title next year. Like a lot of coaches could do that if you're going to it's free agency. Yeah, so and then throw in NIL money, and now you can sweeten the deal. So it's not even follow me, Nick Saban, follow me and the $3 million car dealership offer we're giving you. It's like it's ruining college football. It really great. Is. USC's got a shot to make the playoff because the Pac-12 stinks. And they're USC, and now they're loaded. The other thing is, don't you think USC wants to have a redo now on going to the Big Ten? What's the point? They're expanding to 12 teams. The Pac-12 is going to get a champion. Why wouldn't you just stay there and be in the playoff every year? If you're USC, you can guarantee yourself a playoff spot every year.
No, money. That's what it comes down to.
I guess.
It's all money. And now they also think they can get better recruits if they're in the Big Ten.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true.
I think it is. I don't
know, man.
The USC doesn't have the luster that it used to have.
Condolences to the USC women's and men's volleyball team who's got to get on a red eye to make the Penn State series on a weekend, in November. Have
It
fun
must
with
be
that.
it must be a lot of money because their travel dollars are going to
Well,
significantly
well, by the way, UCLA, because they're a state school, they're pushing back the state of California in releasing them to the Big Ten. I don't know if you've seen it.
I did see
And
that.
some
I did.
independent studies are saying it's going to be it's going to be net neutral. They're not going to make any money because of how expensive the travel is going to be and how much they have to pay coaches to be commensurate with the Big Ten salaries and all the rest of it. So what if that's the case? Then why'd they do it?
Who the hell knows?
Yeah, they got scared. That's the reason. It's not money. They got scared that the conference was going to blow up once those two teams left.
Yeah.
And UCLA didn't want to be left holding the bag. So they went with USC, but I don't think it's going to work. So we'll see.
I guess we'll see what happens. But let us move on to Phil's big three. I want to
Uh,
hear your predictions for the week in this big week of college football. I don't even know what the games are this week. I mean, do we have good
so
games this week or what?
I mean, so there's 3 or 4 games that could have made my ranking, my picks based on how I do it, which is to try to pick all the best games.
Yeah.
So listen. You're probably gonna always see me pick an SEC game because the SEC teams are typically always ranked and now they're in conference. So
Sure.
we'll start with a noon kickoff. It's hard to know exactly what to make of Kentucky. It's a little odd to see them ranked 7th in the country.
It is.
I
It
think
is.
that's a little product of obviously some teams lost early that maybe weren't expected to, and Kentucky just kind of rode the tails up. The win over Florida is solid, but not maybe quite as good because Florida then got whacked to Tennessee and maybe doesn't look quite as good of a team that I might have thought they were. They also struggled with Northern Illinois last week, Kentucky, and beat them by 8. Obviously, I don't love that. And then they traveled to Ole Miss, my boy Lane Kiffin, and the Ole Miss Mississippis, which is always a nice little, Lane's always pretty good. Here's how you know Kentucky's overrated. Kentucky's 7-point underdog to Ole
Stop. Are
Miss.
they really?
They're 7-point underdog to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss has, a powerhouse schedule they've played thus far
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to fall in line with the SEC teams have all decided to play nobody. Ole
yeah.
Miss has played Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, and Tulsa, and
Oh,
they beat Tulsa by 8 points.
oh, that's a tough
So,
schedule.
I mean, yeah. So here's my deal. I, I'm gonna take Kentucky and the 7 points, and I'm gonna go like this. Of the 8 teams, the 2 teams have faced, Kentucky faced the toughest team in Florida.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They got a little bit more game ready for this matchup.
yeah.
So I'm going to take the 7 points on the road and just figure that Ole Miss ekes by, but it's a close game. So that's my first game, Kentucky plus 7. The next game, we go from the noon kickoff. I'm going to go all the way down to the nighttime kickoff.
Okay.
The big ABC game, which is number 10 NC State traveling to number 5 Clemson. This doesn't really feel like a top 10 matchup, but here it is, a top 10 matchup. So if you watched Clemson at all last week, you watched them life and death survive Wake Forest in like 2 overtimes by
Yeah,
6
yeah,
points. They don't seem like they're clicking on all cylinders by any stretch of the imagination, at all. But then what is NC State really? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I don't really know what they are either. So yeah. So what I'm gonna say is that in this particular matchup, you're talking about what's his face, DJ, and that team figuring out a way this time to get right. And I feel like they should have lost last week. They survived. They get back on track. And I'm just trying to find the spread on the game. I think it's 6.5. So Clemson minus 6.5 in that one. And then the best bet is going to be interesting. There's a game tonight, and I just think the spread is really off on it. Washington is ranked 15th. They go to UCLA. Washington's laying 2.5. UCLA is not a good team at all. And they've played Bowling Green, Alabama State, South Alabama, and Colorado. They're the only team that played 2 teams from Alabama, and neither one of them are any good. That's hard to do.
They don't
Alabama
play.
State and South Alabama. They beat South Alabama by 1 point.
Yeah, but you got to remember the South Alabama Alabamians. They're a good team this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one. So I'm going to take Washington. I know they traveled to the Rose Bowl. You figure there's going to be 19 people in the Rose Bowl because nobody shows up for UCLA football games.
That's true.
So
That's true.
where Washington's got a little battle tested, beat Michigan State, beat Stanford. They got to lay 2.5. I feel like that's not a bad play. So I'll take them laying 2.5 as the
Sounds
best bet.
good, man. No, those are some good picks, man. I love how you're picking the toughest games. That makes
Well,
me feel
that's what
good.
makes my 9-3 record more impressive.
It is impressive. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're letting the rankings, and these rankings are dead on. I
Well,
mean, this is solid ranking stuff too.
yeah, exactly. I mean, who knows what these rankings are? But I gotta go, trying to pick the couple of and there was, by the way, I don't know if you wanted to touch on it and
Yeah,
give me
yeah,
your thoughts, but
yeah.
there was another game that could have qualified, but I had to pick, I tried to pick the two. Do you want to put any stock in Alabama at Arkansas? I mean, the spread's also 17. So they're not saying, Arkansas's already got a loss. I don't know how good they are.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Arkansas is ranked in the top 25 because they're in the SEC. But let's be honest. I mean, at least they've played three. Well, they've played two good games. I can't count South Carolina or Missouri State as good games. And
Yeah.
let's be honest, they beat Missouri State at home by 11 points.
Well, and you know what? They beat Cincinnati, which last year that would have been an incredible win. The thing about Cincinnati is
Cincinnati
how
is
good.
ranked.
I know Cincinnati, but they lost, Gardner, the quarterback. I mean, they had
Oh
everyone
yeah.
leave. They
Oh
did make the playoff last year, but that's not the same team anymore. Like that whole, you know what I mean? So
yeah. I mean, listen, they went down to A&M, and A&M, you never know. A&M is one of those teams where are they inside the top 25? Are they outside? It's week to week. You just don't know what's going on.
yeah,
They lost to A&M in A&M by 2 points.
yeah, not bad.
No, so that's a pretty solid game. This is going to be an interesting game, and this is going to show us what kind of team Arkansas has, and what kind of
Yeah,
team Alabama has, because Alabama obviously they beat up on the cupcakes, but is this Arkansas team any good? I mean it's a seven. I mean they're underdogs by 17 points at home. I mean, so Alabama's still getting a lot of respect. I don't
and they
know,
should,
man.
and they should.
They should get respect, but is Alabama going to beat them by 17?
And it's yeah,
I'm
it,
thinking I'm thinking 48-21. So
yeah, I
yeah,
don't
maybe.
probably. The funny part is I always like to after somebody does something unexpected, I like to follow how they progress throughout the season to see if did they just come up and play the game of their life or are
Yeah,
they just better than I thought?
yeah, yeah.
And the one team that you got to scratch your head and go, man, you'd think based on the performance that they're back a little bit, which was Texas after how they played Alabama. You know what I mean that day, especially without the quarterback, and they should have beat them, and I've beaten that horse.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then and then they lost to Texas Tech.
yeah.
Texas is still just doesn't know how to win games. They have to win. Do you know what the talent disparity in recruiting has to be between Texas and Texas Tech?
Oh, it
The fact that Texas again can't beat these local in-state schools they face is head scratching.
you
Like, how
know,
can Texas ever get back if they can't even beat these teams? And how is Texas going to win in the SEC if they can't beat Texas Techs and the Baylors of the world and these other local teams?
it's true, and here I am. I'm taking a look at that Missouri Arkansas game, and the funny thing is the Missouri State going actually with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they were up 27-17.
Who was?
Missouri State, they were up by 10, and Arkansas decided to turn it on. They had a 73-yard touchdown pass. Then they had an 82-yard punt return to go up 31-28. And then in
Yeah,
garbage time, they scored another one at the end. So
yeah. I mean,
technically speaking, I mean, this game, Missouri State was in control of this game for most
yeah,
of the game. I mean, they started off 17-0. Next thing you know, they're up 27-17, and they couldn't hold on for the victory in the fourth quarter. So, that tells you a lot about this Arkansas team. You
yeah.
know,
And you're right. Listen, I think it's a little bit of a wacky college football season. I don't know who really, when the dust settles, Alabama and Georgia will probably be there standing.
Yeah,
but I think it's a little bit based on just nobody on their schedules this year.
I agree.
Like, I think it just is a little bit. And maybe Tennessee has emerged as the third best team this year in the SEC. They've been
Could
that
be.
team that never lives up to anything, and it's been like 15 years. But maybe they finally, listen, they've been handing out NIL money like candy. Maybe it's finally going to pay off for them this year.
Could be. Could be. I don't know. I don't know. So let's get into it. Let's dive into a little NFL, man. I got 7 thoughts I wanted to run by you. See what
All
your
right.
thoughts are on all this stuff. Number one, the Colts. So they tie Houston. They got shut out by Jacksonville.
Mhm.
And then they beat the Chiefs with a TD pass with 24 seconds left in the fourth quarter. What do we make of these guys? And what do we make of Matt Ryan? I mean, what explain to me how a team can go from being so bad to beating one of what we like to say is one of the favorites to make it into the Super Bowl for the AFC. What is it just a wacky season here, or is there something more to it coming out of Indianapolis?
I think I think the biggest thing fans have to realize is every once in a while you're just wrong about a team. But most people thought the Colts had a good chance to win the division going into the season between the Titans drop off and receiver and a few things and the weakness of, let's say, the Jaguars and Texans overall.
Yeah,
And sometimes you just have to trust that the more games you play, things start to just average out. And so you want to overreact to 1 or 2 weeks of the NFL season, but you got to be careful not to overreact too much. And then the other thing you always have to realize is the desperate team tends to be dangerous.
yeah,
When a team's got some talent and they're in a little bit of a hole, they tend to be more desperate. And I think it's a combination. The Colts were better than they performed the first 2 weeks. They were more desperate than the Chiefs. And the veterans all kind of came together and pulled one out against a good Chief team. I don't think it's a knock on the Chiefs. I don't think it
yeah,
makes the Colts great, but I think the Colts, now we were joking the other day. The Colts like were on life support, 0-1-1. Now
yeah,
they're the heavy
yeah.
favorites to win the division at 1-1-1.
It's
1 week.
unbelievable.
But like because they are now. Like now you'd go, oh, okay, they're 1-1-1. Oh, in the worst division in football, they're fine. Just like that.
It's
So
it's crazy to think about, but and I think I heard something about Matt Ryan, like he like set some kind of record, or maybe it was a personal record where I think he had 6 passes completed that had like a 1% chance of completion, something like that, where the window was so small
mm,
that it had to be just perfectly thrown balls. So for a guy that we all thought was washed up, guy made some good throws. So
yeah.
so it's exciting, and I know Indianapolis. I know they've got Tennessee coming to town, so
Hey.
this could be a big game, a big interdivision game for these guys,
Oh
and
yeah.
really kind of set themselves apart from everybody else. So it'll be interesting. Number two, Jacksonville Jaguars. You got your new coach Doug Peterson, but the fact of the matter is, they lost their first game to Washington 28-22. I think you remember that the great Carson Wentz. We thought he was back with his 4 touchdown passes. Turns out he's not. But since then, they shut out Indianapolis 24-0. And then last week, they absolutely obliterated the Chargers 38-10 in LA, which is crazy. The last time they won 2 in a row was October 20th and 27th of 2019. So it's been almost 3 years since they won 2 games in a row. So the question is, with the new coach, with Trevor completing 69% of his passes, 6 touchdowns and 1 interception through 3 games, is this team actually for real? Is this going to be a decent team this year?
So two immediate thoughts. One, college football coaches don't think the NFL is an easy job. Urban Meyer was a disaster. All he did was win everywhere he went in college and immediately made the Jaguars worse on game day and with their
Yep.
preparation. The
Yep.
college game is not the NFL game. The way you coach players, the way you do things, you can go down a laundry list of failed great college coaches that can't coach in the NFL. So that's the first thing. And to think how badly he had them unprepared for the NFL season.
Yep.
Second thing is the Jaguars have been living with the first couple of picks every year for a while now. It's paying off.
Yeah.
They are littered with top draft picks and they must have done a good job and the coach was holding them back a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
True.
think, it's an actual better roster than people realize, top to bottom. They got a lot of, pretty high draft picks. And Trevor Lawrence at one point was thought of as a generational Peyton Manning like quarterback. And
Yeah.
then between Urban Meyer and a little bit of underperformance, somehow he was written off. And now he's in year two and he's playing with a better coach and a better system around him, more like what people thought he should be. He was the number one pick in the draft. So it's not terribly stunning. You know what I mean? If you're going to be a great NFL quarterback and you were the first pick in the draft, you need
Yeah.
to look pretty good by year two. So if he's going to live up to anywhere near the original hype, he needs to be good this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have a cautiously optimistic view on the Dolphins, on the Jaguars. And one of it is Peterson's a good coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if they have their quarterback and they have their coach, that's all you need. You can go from 3 wins to 10 wins or 3 wins to 8 or 9 wins very easily with the right coach and the right quarterback. They
Yeah.
have both.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
have a bunch of first and second round high draft picks on the roster.
I
That's a
just
good enough reason to be pretty good.
I just think it's exciting when you see a team that has been so bad and is really starting to turn things around. And I just think that that's exciting. I'm excited for the Jaguars. I'm excited for their fans. I'm excited for Trevor Lawrence. We're all looking at this guy like, man, I thought this guy is like heads and shoulders above everybody else. He's by far and away the number one pick. And he goes out there and he does terrible. But it just goes to show you that a lot of times it's the environment. Maybe it's the play calling, maybe it's the protection. You put all these things in, and not
Yeah.
only that, I mean the jump from college to pro is so
I mean,
huge.
we could do an episode on the amount of great college coaches that failed miserably in the NFL.
And it's I
It's
don't even,
it's
off the top of my head, I can't even really think of. I mean, the only one that really comes to mind of somebody that did well in the NFL
it's
is
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll. Yeah, that's the
Pete
only
Carroll.
one.
No, he's the only one who did well. But the ones that failed, I mean,
But
it's
Pete Carroll
the
failed
list is
the first
massive.
time he tried being an NFL coach
He
too.
did. And I think one of the differences, most of the time after a failed stint in the NFL, they go back to college and run forever. Pete
Everybody.
Carroll took a second crack at it, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you could never be a good NFL coach, but it doesn't usually, like, think about it. I mean, Urban Meyer might have been the worst failed case, but Nick Saban failed. And those are arguably the two greatest college football coaches in the last 30 years.
You
They
know,
both failed in the NFL.
you
Lou
know, and it,
Holtz failed in the NFL. Steve Spurrier failed in the
oh, they all
NFL.
did. They all
I
did.
mean, give me the guy who succeeded. Even what's his face looks like a big failure. I know it's a way shortened stint, but the Baylor coach who was like walking on water, Matt Rule, and now he's been pretty horrible in Carolina. And these
Yeah.
are just the ones I'm thinking of immediately. Lane Kiffin failed. I mean, I don't think anybody. Remember Chip Kelly couldn't stop that offense. That's the greatest offense in the world. Comes to the NFL, they're like, get him out of here. This is a joke.
The interesting thing is, besides Pete Carroll, there's actually two other coaches that have won national championships and Super Bowls. So there's three total, which is probably two more than I thought. Any idea who the other two were? It
Are
might take a
they
while.
are they a long time ago or no?
90s.
Oh yeah. Barry Switzer,
And
Oklahoma and Dallas. Barry Switzer and
I'll give you a hint, man. His
oh,
hair,
was it it
perfect,
wasn't it
perfectly
wasn't the
curled.
the Redskins quarterback, right? The Redskins coach, right?
No, it was the guy that Switzer took over for.
Oh wow, yeah.
Jimmy Johnson.
I forgot his name. Yeah.
Yeah,
How about them Cowboys?
he won at the U, and then he
Yep.
won with the Cowboys. So it's
And
only
and
done
and
three
and and
times.
so ready. Let's like think about this honestly for a second. The two other names that did it inherited legacy dynasty Dallas Cowboys teams.
Well, not necessarily Jimmy Jones, Jimmy
Not
Johnson,
Jimmy.
not necessarily him, but Barry
Well,
Switzer. Yes, he came in and he inherited a team that
I
was.
don't. Well, Barry Switzer for sure took over a juggernaut, and Jimmy Johnson. I don't know if he played a part in their draft, but they drafted stud after stud. He went like 1-15, and then they had drafted Aikman and all those guys. So I don't know if he was like a big pivotal person in drafting those players, like if he was a confidant to the GM and like actually pushing that. But I'm just saying,
Well,
like
you got to remember something with
They
Jimmy
went
Johnson.
1-15 in Jimmy Johnson's first year, I think.
His first year, they were 1-15. I
Yeah.
mean, listen. He did win 2 Super Bowls. I'll give him that much.
Yeah. I mean,
But listen, he was only a coach for 9 years in Dallas and Miami. He was 144 and 80, which is fine. But I mean, are you telling me Mike Holmgren doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame? I mean, there's other guys that should be
yeah.
in the Hall of Fame, and some reason Jimmy Johnson got in, probably because of
Well,
his popularity.
Jimmy Johnson going from the Miami Hurricanes to the Dallas Cowboys at the eras that he was on those two places, by far had more talent than everybody they faced. Those
They
Miami Hurricane teams were so loaded, and those Dallas Cowboy teams after that bad first year when they were just
awful.
drafting, like, but I mean, my goodness, dude.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's true. It's true. It's true. All right, let's move on to number three. Number three. Um, scoring at 2-1 and scoring less than 20 points a game. Is Tom Brady finally done? Is he finally showing his age? And he's, don't get me wrong, his stats still look decent, but they're not really scoring any points. They're not blowing anybody away. This is not your typical Bucks team. I mean, is he finally showing, hey, you know what? This guy is finally old and he's just done. He's done. His mind maybe is elsewhere on
Yeah.
his retirement or his $35 million a year announcer career. I mean, what's going on with this guy? Is that it for him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I'll never, say I'll never count him out. But I think that between the off-field distractions, I don't know how much I want to put a weight on the fact that I know there was a little bit of talk that there was an issue between Arians and Brady, but
Yeah,
like as a non-Todd Bowles fan, I don't think Todd Bowles is a head coach. I think
yeah,
he's a really good defensive coach. I don't think he's helping the situation because he's not an offensive mind. And I know Leftwich is still there, but I just don't love Todd Bowles leading anything. I
yep.
don't think that helps. And yeah, Tom Brady is, you know, at the end of the day, at some point, Father Time does catch up to you.
It happens.
Even if you look like the greatest specimen of a human being, you're
Yeah,
still out there with 25-year-old kids who are also the greatest athletes in the world. At
yeah,
some point, it comes home to roost.
yeah.
So, like,
Can't
maybe
hang
it's
on
not.
forever.
I know he's completing 65% of his passes, but for a 6.5 average, right now, he's a dink and dunk quarterback.
Yeah, he's
This
just
is a little bit like Breeze late in his career. Just get the ball out real quick. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna pump the brakes. He didn't have Mike Evans last week. Um, he was suspended, but
well. Listen, a couple
there's
couple
some
things.
things to be nervous about right now if
Listen,
you're
a
in
couple
Tampa.
a couple things that aren't helping them. All right, one is their running game. Although Fournette has been okay, their second leading rusher is Julio Jones with 17 yards.
Yeah, I
Not only
mean,
that, if you look at their wide receivers, the guy that has by far and away, he's got double the reception of anybody else. Is now this guy's a household name. Russell, don't put me in a cage. I have no idea who that is. He's got 19 receptions. He's averaging 6.7 yards a reception. Okay. That is god awful. That is god awful. So the team isn't really helping him. He's also been sacked 6 times, which is something
well,
that usually doesn't
well,
happen with
that's
him.
the
It's usually
scary
an
part for
untouchable.
him. He's got to go down as soon as he sees somebody coming. Don't take hits.
Yeah.
The
So
best the best thing for Tampa, forget Brady for a second. The best thing for Tampa is after a tough game against Kansas City tomorrow night or Sunday night,
yeah,
they
yeah,
get Atlanta, they get Pittsburgh and Carolina, both on the road, but that's not vintage Pittsburgh or Carolina
that's true.
before they step up again. So they're well on their way to,
Yeah,
six
but
and
you
three
know
or
what?
something.
You know what? Even after that, they have some tougher games. Baltimore, Rams, and Seattle, all at home at least.
Yeah, and
So
Seattle's not a tough game, man.
right. So Seattle's not that game. So you figure by the end by week 10, they
Yeah,
should be 7-3, 6-4. So I mean, they're still going to be a good team. They're
yeah,
still going to make the playoffs.
yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Tom. I just think this.
Yeah, I think listen, this is
This
definitely going to be his last year.
Oh yeah. Oh, it
So
is. It is. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is
It
it.
definitely is.
So
It definitely is. All right. Well, let's go on to number four, and that is I want to talk a little about the Lions. Yeah, they are 1-2, but do you realize they set an NFL record for most consecutive quarters scoring a touchdown to start a season? They scored a touchdown in 11 straight quarters, which is pretty crazy. They're the highest scoring team in the NFC with 95 points after 3 weeks.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
Their two losses, they lost by 3 and 4, and their win, they won by 1. So we talked a little bit about the Jaguars turning it around. Is this another team that looks like they are on the precipice of actually being decent?
I mean, I don't like the quarterback. That's what scares me. I know he's having a pretty good season, but he's under 60% completions. He's obviously getting the ball down the field. Overall, having a good season. He
Yeah,
worries me. Goff just worries me.
yeah,
I love their backs. I think Swift is a really good back. I like
yeah,
Jamal
yeah.
Williams as the secondary. I mean, Amon, what's his name? St. Brown or whatever.
Jim Brown, yeah,
He's
yeah,
turning himself into like a top 5 receiver. I mean,
yeah,
he's certainly with the Jefferson and Jamar Chase having down years to start the year. I mean, he's ascending into a top 5 receiver, as a big time breakout. And I know he had a good year last year, but like now he's really sitting there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think they're a fun team. They're kind of a little bit what I was hoping the Jets would be in that maybe they're not going to have the win-loss record you want, but they're a fun team, exciting team, score some points, give you something to have hope in. And I think they're a little bit of that right now. They don't know how to really win close games yet,
Not
but
yet.
they're a fun team that could be dangerous.
Well,
And
the
it
nice
would be
thing
nice
is,
for all of America to have a good Lion team on Thanksgiving because it's tiring. It's
wouldn't that be
it
nice,
would be
right?
fun, right? Like when
Yeah,
you're sitting
yeah,
there, before you get the stuffing and the turkey out on Thanksgiving, it'd be nice if at 12:30 kickoff the Lions weren't off. That'd be good.
well, it would be nice, except they're playing Buffalo on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but hey, that's all maybe you get a 41-35 game or something.
Love to see it. Love
Let
to see
Goff
it.
air it out. Let's have some fun with it.
Listen, Goff hasn't been making mistakes, which is the key. His completing percentage is under 60%, not great, but he's not making the mistake. And DeAndre Swift, he only has 27 carries in 3 games, but he's averaging 8.5 yards a carry. You got to
And
put the ball
listen,
in this guy's hands.
a very, very big game for the Lions this week. They have to beat Seattle and get to 2-2,
Yep,
and
yep,
then a winnable Patriot game.
yeah, yeah,
And I say winnable, which is a rare thing to say in Foxborough, but especially if Mac Jones is out for 2-4 weeks or whatever,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Lions actually have to go there and win that game.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
by
some
the time
winnable
they hit
games
their
coming
bye
up.
week, yeah,
Yeah,
they could be 3-2
yeah,
going into week 7 against Dallas,
yeah,
which was a great place for them to be.
yeah, which would be phenomenal. So I'm rooting for them. I like the underdog. You know that. I'm a Jet fan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. Number 5, the Broncos are 2-1. They
The
lose.
ugliest 2-1 of all
They
time.
they lose to Seattle 17-16. Then they beat a tremendous Texas team, 16-9, and then they win a slug,
A walk-off solo homer,
a
11-10.
walk-off solo homer versus the 49ers 11-10. So the question is, okay, are they a good team or are they just a lucky team?
Wow. I mean, I don't know what they are yet, but if they didn't get, if for some reason, because of his size and all the rest of it, if Russell Wilson has taken even a quarter of a step back, or if the coaching is just so poor that it's playing a part in him taking a half a step back,
Yeah, yeah,
man, they overpaid for him.
yeah.
And if this is just a situation, I'm going to pump the brakes though and say new coach, new quarterback, new system, new team. We got to give him 4 or 5 weeks. The best positive glass half full news would be they're 2-1 and they look horrible. That's a great place to be if you figure it out
That's true.
because they're winning while they look horrible.
That is
So
true. That is
so
true.
if we write the story that they're 12-5 at the end of the year, it's going to be when they were awful early on, they survived and won a bunch of games. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm gonna pump the brakes on, calling them a disaster because they're 2-1. Their defense has got 9 sacks already. They're obviously playing
Yeah,
very good defense while they try
yeah,
to figure it out.
yeah, yeah,
Bradley Chubb 3 sacks already. I love the running back combo of Williams and Gordon.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do think the receivers Sutton and Judy is a good combo. They just haven't translated to any offense right now. I mean, Russell Wilson's got 2 TDs and 1 interception, and less than 60% completions that's
Well,
obviously way off. But
well,
let's see.
the interesting thing with them is we thought that this division was going to be fantastic, and the Chargers haven't looked good.
The Raiders have been a disaster.
The Raiders are 0 and
Here,
3.
here's the deal.
Kansas
You're
City
gonna
is
know if
not.
the Broncos are for real or not. And here's my prediction.
Yeah,
If the Broncos are not for real, they will lose the next 3 games they play. They need to be for real. If
and
they're not for real, they could quickly be staring at 2-4.
You
So
know, when you look at they do not have the hardest schedule in the world either.
they don't, but the Raiders, I
They can
mean,
win some games. The
it's a
Raiders are
little
super desperate
a
now.
little teaser alert. Raiders are one of my picks because
They have
they
to.
have to be so desperate. They
Oh,
have to be.
tremendous. Yeah,
Their
they have to
season's
win.
on the line.
Yeah.
And the Broncos are not a juggernaut. So like they got some tough games coming up. We'll see how it plays out.
So number 6, let's move along. Cooper Rush, 2 straight wins. He's actually the second undrafted free agent Cowboys quarterback to win 2 games in a row. You know who the other one was by chance?
That Boise State quarterback, I can't think of his name.
No, no, he was
Who?
drafted. No, Tony Romo.
Oh, the Rominator.
Yeah, not only that, I believe they're both out of Central Michigan. Don't hold me to that, but I think so.
The
Um,
Chippewas? Bet you
Any
didn't know I
yeah,
knew that.
is that what they're? So anyway, but he's 3-0 as a starter. So here's the question, before Dak comes back in week 5, what do we expect from him versus Washington? I mean, Washington is not a good team. So, I mean, are we looking at Cooper Rush going 4-0 in his first 4 starts?
Yes. I'm never picking Washington to win a game. So yeah. Now, yeah, I think he will be.
And
I think he will be.
he's just getting the job done. I mean, I
Getting
don't
the job done. He's not doing anything spectacular, but you know what? The Cowboys have a pretty solid roster. And when you inherit something that's pretty solid,
yeah.
sometimes not screwing up is good enough. You don't have to be great. He's not great. He's not doing anything great, but he's
You know,
making enough plays.
you know what he's not doing? He's not turning the ball over.
He's not turning the ball over. And you know what he also might be
That's
doing?
the
He might be
key.
finding himself to be the next quarterback who never starts in the NFL but makes 8 to 10 million a year to sit on the bench and back people up,
It could
which
be.
is probably the greatest gig you could have outside of the competitive nature of wanting to play.
Oh,
You
incredible.
being the next, what's that guy? What's the quarterback who's made like 60 $50 million?
Case Daniel.
Chase you that's your goal. If
He's
you're a
got like I
quarterback,
think he's played like 13 years. I think he's got 5 career starts and he's made 60 million.
everybody wants to be the next Chase Daniel.
I mean, I would take it.
Clipboard, visor. Let's go, boys. Go out there
You
and have some fun.
you're getting paid $60 million for the best seat in the house.
Best seat in the house. And you're not even responsible to coach the team. You're the
Hmm.
attaboy guy. Attaboy.
Attaboy guy. You're the guy
Attaboy.
that's just
Attaboy.
slapping butts. That's all. You're handing out towels in the
If it
shower.
was college, you'd be the guy holding the signs up, like Scooby Doo,
Yeah.
Rodney Dangerfield, and Dr. Pepper. Somehow those are signs. I love
A
it.
matter of fact, last year I could have sworn that one of the first down guys got tackled by accident, and he was holding that first down sign.
That's it.
I could have sworn that was him, but I don't know. Anyway,
Hey, 10 million, you'll do anything.
it's
Attaboy.
hell yeah. So number 7, and this is going to be my favorite one and your favorite one. Zack Wilson was finally cleared to play this year.
Zach is back. Dak is almost back. Zach is back.
What's he going to do? What
Listen,
what is this guy? This guy was taken way early in the draft. The Jets' future depends on this guy. The defense is solid. Offense has a lot
well,
of weapons. What is Zack Wilson gonna do
the
against
deep the
the
defense
Steelers?
hasn't unfortunately been as solid as it should be.
No,
Um,
no.
so that's something they need to fix. Listen, I'm gonna predict. I'm not making the Jets one of my picks. I think the Jets will win in Pittsburgh this week. I do
Wow.
think they will win in Pittsburgh. I think they'll get to 2-2. And actually, if that is the case, they set themselves up for a decent shot to beat Miami at home without Tua. And I'm just going to assume there's no way Tua's playing next week. I would think.
Who the hell
Not
knows?
that
I don't
Teddy
know.
Bridgewater's decent, by the way. I don't sell him short. He's a solid guy. He's
Eddie is a
shown he
good
can be a
player.
good, decent NFL quarterback.
He's a good player.
Anyway, I just think they have to put a big time game together. I
Yeah.
think they'll be energized by Zack Wilson coming back. I think his mobility, provided his knee is stable, and I gotta believe they waited this long to make sure he's cleared because he's actually healthy to make all the
Yeah.
normal throws and throwing on the run. My thing with Zack Wilson is simply this. The best part of his game is when things break down and he gets out of the pocket, he can throw from every arm angle, on the run, anywhere on the field, he's a threat. You put Elijah Moore, you put a Barrios, and obviously you put the rookie Wilson, even Corey Davis. That's enough deep speed talent. That's enough ball catching ability, playmaking ability. They should be able to hit on some big plays. And I don't envision Zach Wilson being a 65, 66% guy this year. I envision Zach Wilson being a 59% guy, but hitting on some very big plays. And I think that's more what his game is until he can get a little more accurate and get into the 61, 62% accuracy as he gets older. But I think that you can win with that. You just have to hit on some of these big plays. And I think they have the talent where they should be able to do that. So let's say I will be very disappointed if they go to Pittsburgh and lose. That I will be very disappointed. I think they're going to go there and win. I think they're better than Pittsburgh, and I think the coaching staff has to have them in a position to win that game. So
Well, yeah, I listen, I agree. The only thing that I hope is I hope that, being that this guy is no doubt going to be rusty, I hope they're just going to let him ease into the game, throw some
I hear you.
short passes, get your over the middle guys, some quick 5-6 yard slants. Let these guys try to do some things. Don't put too much pressure on Zach Wilson to make the big throws right away. Let's ease him back into the game. Let's establish the running game. They don't have TJ Watt, which is great.
Which
Let's
is
try to
great.
get the running game going. And yeah, we could come out with a victory, but again, it all depends on Zach Wilson. This entire season depends
Yeah.
on
But
on
he
how.
needs to get back. And I would be cautious to say like I would script a plan of like conservative throwing early in the game just because if I'm Pittsburgh, that's what I'm thinking the Jets are gonna do.
Yep.
So like you have all this talent at wide receiver now. You have to exploit it. Like the Bengals didn't go, hey, Jamar Chase, run 3 yard outs so Joe Burrow can make safe throws. Like
Yeah.
take cracks downfield. Let your playmakers. Here's what I want to see Zach Wilson do. Don't throw the ball 10 yards over their head. Let them have a chance to go up in traffic and make a play. You
Yeah.
know, I watch all these quarterbacks on Sundays throw the ball up and let great receivers be great. Let your skill guys be great. And you know what? If they don't come down with 50-50 balls, I'm not going to rip Zach Wilson for it.
That's true.
I'm not.
That's
Like
true.
we finally have receivers that can go win one-on-one battles. Go throw the ball up. Keep the ball in play, give them a chance, and let these kids earn their money. So that's what I want to see Zach Wilson do. We'll see if he could do it. And yeah, it is his first game back. So could he be rusty? I guess. Yeah, he could be. He also could come
Yeah.
out and play well. God forbid the Jets had a guy just come out and play well. Just play
Yeah.
well.
That's a dream. That would be a dream come true. That'd be a dream come true. All right, my favorite time of the episode. Fill up your bank account. So far, you've been a big dud. Although you did go 2-1 last week, so you're
I
four
know,
and five
easy.
on the
I'm working. I
season.
started 0-3. I'm now
One
4 and
and two.
5. I'm working my way back.
We're moving in the right direction. How about it? I've been getting email after email. All of our, both of our listeners have been complaining that your picks have not been good in the NFL. They're big pro football bettors. I think you made a pretty big bet last year. Last week I think you said the mortgage payment. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see what you're going to do this week. So let's hear it, man. Let's hear what you got.
So I'm going 4 games this week.
Oh,
Little extra game. Um, so we're gonna start with the the game that I kind of alluded to a little bit. I'm taking the Cowboys laying 3 points at home against Washington. Um, this is more of a play on. Listen, the Cowboys righted the ship. Like the world was coming to an end. 0-1.
yeah,
Dak is out. Now they're 2-1 with an
yeah,
extremely winnable game at home. They're
extremely.
only laying 3 points. And I think Cooper Rush can manage this type of game at home. And do I want to lay points with Cooper Rush? No, I'd rather not, but you're going to lay points against Washington at home. So it's a manageable 3 points, and I'll lay the 3 with the Cowboys.
Okay.
Um, Next game, this is more was a combination play. I obviously don't love everything about the Packers. They're obviously struggling. Again, they're another team that's 2-1, but they're kind of struggling. They don't look like the old Packers. But again, they took away most of Rodgers' weapons. They're they've left him with a little bit of the cupboards a little dry there. They got to figure it out. He's got to get on the same page. I feel like
Yep.
this is the game to right the ship
Yep.
against a banged up Patriot team who's probably going to have a lot of trouble scoring in this game.
Yeah, I would think
And
so.
so while I got to lay, what is it, 9.5?
Yep.
I don't feel so worried about laying 9.5 when I think the Patriots may have trouble breaking 14 points for the day. So I'll lay 9.5 with the Pack at home. Um, the next game is the Sunday night game. I think it's still Sunday night, and I'm pretty sure they're staying in Tampa to play the game with the
Yeah. Yeah.
Hurricane because I think
Yeah.
everything passed.
Yeah.
Um, Not that I don't believe that the Bucks could right the ship, but I think the Chiefs are a little bit more of the team steaming off the loss to the Colts. And I think Mahomes is still feeling the effects of the loss in the Super Bowl. And I think they're the more motivated team.
Yep.
and I get to take the Chiefs, and it's just a pick 'em game. If the spread is pick 'em. I don't really care that the game's in Tampa. I don't think Tampa's got this raucous crowd. I think the Storm's going to probably make it even a weirder crowd, to be honest, with what's going on there. So this
Good.
may be like not even a home field advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to take who I think is just flat out the better team and take the Chiefs. Um, and then my best bet is circle in the clock. This is two combination. This is if this was analytics, the two bubbles would come together to form one great bubble of why I have to take this team. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Okay.
My thought is always the desperate team wins. My other thing I always say is Vegas knows more than me. The
Yep.
Raiders do not belong being favored in this game. The Vegas knows something we don't know. They want the betting public to go take the Broncos getting 2.5, and I'm going the other way. Best bet, Raiders 0-3, desperate, laying 2.5, have to win the game to survive the season and maybe have a chance to get back in the race.
Yeah.
The Broncos have looked like the Walking Dead, but they're 2-1. And they go into Vegas. This is going to be hostile to me. And Vegas has to come out with a win. And you're only needing a 3-point win to cover. So my best bet is the Raiders somehow figuring out whatever the hell's going on with them. They figure it out this week. And that's my best bet. So it's Cowboys, Packers, Raiders, Chiefs. Raiders best bet.
I like those. I like those.
If I can at least go 3-1, we get back over 500.
I'm thinking 4-0, man. I'm
I'm
liking
at
it.
least looking for 3-1 here. But if I can go 4-0, that would really turn around the old season real quick.
I'm liking
And
this.
so I always like to end it with what was my confidence level. I usually equate it to some type of payment. This confidence level is going to be like we're going to go with like a student loan payment.
Student loan payment, okay.
Which can vary, to be honest, depending on your situation.
You may not be paying your student loans this week. We'll have to keep
You know what I mean? We'll see. Biden says he's going to forgive some of them, so we'll see.
Who the heck knows?
I don't know about that.
All right, last thing, I just wanted to finish up like this. 7 games left in the season. Mets and Braves. The Mets currently have a 1-game lead. Big weekend series in Atlanta. Thank you very much. Who's pulling out, man? Who's gonna win this division?
Well, so there's 6 games left for each team, actually.
Oh, it's 6. Okay.
They got 3 head-to-head, and then they end with a 3-game series. The Braves play the Marlins, the Mets play the Nationals. I don't want to write anything off. We just saw it. The Braves just lost a game to the Nationals. The Mets have not put away the division by losing some games they should have won. You never count out these teams playing for nothing just to spoil seasons.
Yep.
So with 6 to go, the Mets have a 1-game lead, which some people know, some people don't know. If the Mets win 1 of 3, if the Mets go 1-2 against the Braves, they actually leave Atlanta tied, but with the season series win, which allows them to win the tiebreaker. So the MLB changed the rules. Usually, if you end the season tied, you'd play a 1-game playoff. They're not doing that. The Mets would be 10-9 overall for the season against Atlanta if they win 1 game against them. Here's something that broke close to midnight last night. Braves fans are not going to know this. Most people are not going to know this. The Mets are calling up the number one prospect in baseball.
I did hear
Francisco Alvarez. Most people didn't see it because it was late last night. It's a very odd time, obviously. They're calling a kid up who's 20 years old with 6 games left in the season, who's a amazing hitter, but he's a catcher. And they didn't call him up all year because they were afraid his defense wasn't ready to catch a veteran staff. He's 20 years old. That would be very young to be promoted as a catcher.
Yep.
And his bat plays, but they were worried about it. So what I just read before we jumped on was that they're just calling him up to be the righty DH for the team. So he's going to start tonight because Max Fried's pitching, and he's going to be their righty, face lefties. If a lefty's on the mound, he's going to be their DH. That's what they're doing with the kid. And if he plays, he's going to stay on the playoff roster. An interesting development this late in the year. I don't know what to make of it. I know my boys are excited because they've been hearing about him all year and they got his rookie card, but then he never came up and played. So I don't know.
If they do win the division and
he'll be on the roster.
They're spraying champagne everywhere. I mean, he's got to leave he can't be in the clubhouse.
Can't even drink. Can't even have a sip.
In the clubhouse,
So do I think the Mets win? Do I think the Mets hold on and win the division? Yes, because 7 times over the last 4 weeks, I've cursed them out and said they're choking and they're not going to win it. So yeah, I mean, because they've lost some games they should have won.
Yeah,
The Braves scare me to death. I think the Braves are amazing. I
they
love
really
everything
are.
about the Atlanta Braves.
They
Like,
really,
there's nothing not to like. The young kids they've called up have been amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If I had to nitpick the Braves, there's two things I don't love about the Braves. I don't trust their bullpen. I think it's a little spotty. I don't love Kenley Jansen in the back end. They're a little spotty, the Braves bullpen, but everybody's got a little weakness. To
You
me,
know,
that's their main weakness. And their other weakness, again, nitpicking. You're nitpicking a team who won a World Series and is awesome. The other nitpick is, for all the talent offensively they have a lot of games they don't score any runs because they're a little boomer bust.
yeah,
They're a
yeah,
little
sometimes.
bully offensive team where when it all gets rolling, they look like juggernauts. And then they have way too many 2-1, 3-2 games where it's like they strike out. They got 3 or 4 guys in the top 6 in Ks.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
can be a bad offense
yeah,
at times
yeah.
for how great they are, which is a weird thing to say, but it's kind of like you can, a good rotation can strike a lot of them out in any given series.
Well, it's interesting because the Mets have really been led by some great, great pitching this year
And 2 great hitters this year.
and two great hitters, right? Whereas Atlanta has been more, I think, evenly balanced. Their pitching has been good. Their hitting has been good. There's not necessarily the discrepancy. I mean, if you look at the Mets, I mean, Carrasco is playing great. Walker is playing great. And then, of course, you got Scherzer and DeGrom, assuming he's
And
healthy.
Bassett's been awesome.
And Bassett's been great. Yes,
Their rotation's good, yeah.
their rotation is
And
it
Diaz has been the
probably
best closer in the last decade, the
it
season
probably
he's
they
had.
probably rank up there probably right behind the Dodgers for top
Well,
star pitching.
and I want to be fair. I nitpick 2 things with the Braves. The nitpick on the Mets is very clear, and I'm someone who watches just about every game. Their offense is nowhere near as talented as the Braves.
Right.
They are very exposed against lefty pitching
Yeah. Yeah.
because Marte's hurt, and he's a huge piece on the offense, and he's hurt, and they are just not that good against lefties. So that's why they're calling up this kid. Because I think after watching Darren Ruff, who they traded for, who's been hitting 120 since they traded for him, they are, I think Buck Showalter finally convinced management to say, bring the kid up. He can't be worse than Darren Ruff, who's 120. So I think that's part of the deal with calling him up. Here's how I just look at it. The Mets are due to win a series in Atlanta in a big spot. I
Yeah.
think they win. I think they win 2 out of 3. I think they leave Atlanta up 2, but not clinch.
Mm.
Up 2, right? Because they're up 1 right now. So I think they win 2 out of 3. They leave Atlanta up 2, and they need 1 win back in Citi Field to clinch. That's how I think it ends. What do you say?
You know what? I think that Atlanta takes 2 of 3. I think they're tied going into the last series where they're both playing garbage teams. I think it's coming down to the last game of the season.
And your prediction is?
I think the Mets are going to choke.
I mean, I understand saying that. We'll
But
see.
you know what? I mean, part of me is saying that because I live in Atlanta
No, well,
and
listen, that's
I'm
okay.
a Mets fan. So, but
It's all right. They're
whatever
probably
the
both
case
going to win
is,
100 games too.
listen,
Probably.
whatever the case is, it's awesome that there is this division race at the end of the season. That's like
This is the only one in baseball.
yeah, and it's gonna be fun to watch that they play each other. I just wish this was the last series
Me
of the
too. If
year.
you could,
That
yeah.
would really be exciting. But again, they both play crappy teams at the end. So let's see what happens. It's
And
gonna
I'm
be
going to get
fun.
your honest take on this right now. Judge is the walkaway MVP. He's got 61. He might win the Triple Crown. There's no conversation. I concede to you while Otani's doing something that's amazing, not this year.
Yeah.
Judge
Oh,
is a
Tony's
walkaway.
numbers
He
are
should
great.
be a
Yeah,
unanimous MVP.
should be.
Just take a look at Alonso's stats. It's the quietest MVP campaign that no one's talking about because everybody conceded Goldschmidt, Goldschmidt, Goldschmidt. Alonso's got 40 and 131
Does he have 40 home runs?
and 131 RBIs.
Yeah. Oh, listen, he's having a heck of a year.
It's rare that a player in New York would be so forgotten,
Yeah. But
but like he really, and I'm just telling you, if you look at the name MVP,
yeah,
he is by far the National League MVP. The Mets offense is garbage without him.
you
So
know
like
what?
if you're talking about most valuable player, if you took any one guy off the Yankees, I mean Judge is worth, he is the MVP. He's worth all his weight in gold. So is Alonso to the Mets. He is worth his weight in gold. Like
I listen, I can't argue with that.
I guess Goldschmidt's probably still going to get it, but look at the numbers. Look at both of their numbers. It's a lot closer than you would think.
Not necessarily. Yeah, it is. It is. And where Goldschmidt has him is in the average.
No, but where Alonso has him is in home runs and RBIs.
Yeah, yeah. His home runs and RBIs are higher. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So I'm just saying
41 per
nobody
81
even
is great.
considers Alonso, but it's pretty close. People are acting like it's a runaway. It shouldn't be.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It depends on which way you're looking at it because Goldschmidt's got some numbers that are better. Alonso's got some numbers that are better, but overall, Goldschmidt's got more numbers that are better. Alonso just has more home runs and RBIs. But
Yeah,
yes,
well,
like
but
you're
I'm saying
saying,
most valuable player. If you
if
look at it by
if
like the textbook definition, the Mets
if
are lost without him.
it depends how voters are looking at it. Yes.
Yeah,
Is he the most valuable guy in the NL to his team?
right.
The answer is yes.
Well, and here's the
Absolutely.
thing. If he has a chance to win it, have a big series and beat Atlanta, and if he is a big contributor in that, that could tip the scales.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to
Like
remember, St. Louis
national
has.
spotlight 3 games. If he has a monster 3 games in Atlanta, that's what everyone's going to remember too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and St. Louis has Arenado, who's also a beast. But yeah, I mean, Alonso is really doing it himself. So yeah,
Yeah, he really. It's
he
just
should.
interesting.
It depends if they're looking. Are they looking at stats or are they looking at the actual value to the team? And if it's the value to the team, he wins. If
Right.
it's stats, he's not going to win. That's what
Yeah,
it comes
it's
down to.
but it's closer. The stats are closer than people think because
It
most
it
people don't
it
realize this
should
the year he's had.
it should be. When you think of most valuable player, it's not guy that has the best stats. It's the guy that's the most valuable player.
And in and
It
and in rare instances, it's both, which is Judge,
Yes, yes. That 100%, 100%. Yeah, that's why.
because he's both.
Right, and we'll talk about Judge, and we'll talk about how, maybe next episode we'll talk about how his season compares to some of the other great seasons out there. But we'll wait until the season's over so we can see what's what. But that is it, my friend, man. What another great episode. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Hope everybody gets their picks in for the weekend. I appreciate everybody. If you like us, keep following us, keep listening to us, have fun. If you don't, keep listening to us. Maybe we'll grow on you. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, tell people you like, tell people you don't like. That's about all I got. So have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the end of the baseball season. Enjoy more great football,
Let's
and
go Mets.
watch the Braves pull it
Hopefully,
out.
I'm not listening to too much. Oof, that one's
I
rough.
like that. I like that.
Let's
All
go
right,
Mets.
take care, my friend.
See
Enjoy
you guys.
yourself.